The Umayyads expanded the borders of the Muslim world and created the largest empire in Islamic history, stretching from Spain all the way to the Indian subcontinent. They proved to be competent rulers and administrators who developed Muslim civilization and invested in architecture, science, literature, urban development, and military technology. During the reign of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, the Muslim world was united after an unstable period following the collapse of the Rashidun Caliphate. Abdul Malik established a coin factory in Damascus and created a single currency for the entire caliphate, which previously used multiple different currencies in different regions of the empire. Abdul Malik also made it compulsory for all government departments across the empire to operate using the Arabic language, and all government workers had to learn the Arabic language regardless of what region they were in. This made governing this massive empire much easier and strengthened unity. After strengthening the empire from within, Abdul Malik focused on external expansion and conquered a large part of North Africa, including modern-day Morocco and Tunisia. Abdul Malik also constructed dams in the cities of Najaf and Kufa in the province of Iraq in order to protect the region from floods. During the reign of Abdul Malik, he also built beautiful architecture and many mosques, such as the Dome of the Rock Mosque in Jerusalem, which was constructed in the year 691. Beautiful pieces of architecture continued to be constructed during the reign of Al-Walid. The reign of Al-Walid witnessed the greatest architectural achievements in the history of Islamic civilization, and great mosques such as the Umayyad Mosque in Damascus were built. He also renovated older mosques such as the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. He also constructed the beautiful palace known as the Qasr Amra in Jordan. Besides beautiful architecture, Al-Walid also established public hospitals in Damascus, including the first specialized hospitals for blind people and patients suffering from leprosy. During the reign of Al-Walid, the Umayyad Empire reached its greatest extent in size after he conquered Spain in the west, the region of Sindh in the Indian subcontinent, and many areas in Central Asia, including the city of Kashgar, which bordered the Tang dynasty in China. The Muslim world continued to flourish under the various different caliphs that came after Al-Walid. The economy flourished and the Umayyads traded with neighboring empires. Various factories were established to manufacture products such as sugar, rosewater, perfumes, brushes, embroidered textiles, leather, glass, pottery, carpets, windmills, weapons, and ships. Huge markets were established across the empire in cities such as Al-Mansura in Egypt. The Umayyads also invested in urban development and built many cities such as the city of Kairouan in Tunisia, the city of Wasit in Iraq, the city of Helwan in Egypt, and the city of Ramla in Palestine. Besides the beautiful Umayyad buildings in the Levant region, the Umayyads also constructed many other buildings across the empire, such as the Sidi Uqba Mosque in Algeria, the Great Mosque of Cordoba in Spain, the Great Mosque of Sana'a in Yemen, the Al-Maski Mosque in the region of Asir in southern Arabia, and the Al-Jabra Palace in Hijaz. The Umayyads also expanded the Muslim military and increased the size of the navy, making it the most powerful navy in the Mediterranean Sea. Many scientific developments also took place during the rule of the Umayyads, including the translation of various Greek and Latin scientific books into the Arabic language. During this period, one of the first libraries in Islamic history was established, known as the Library of Prince Khalid bin Yazid. Many great works of literature were also written during the reign of the Umayyad Empire, which produced great historians such as Ibn Ishaq, who wrote books on the life of the Prophet and the history of pre-Islamic Arabia, and Wahab ibn Munabih, who produced work on the ancient history of Yemen. Literature was also produced on various other sciences such as medicine. The Umayyad period witnessed doctors and physicians such as Ibn Uthal and Abu Hakam al-Dimashqi. The Umayyad Empire also produced many great non-Arab scholars such as the Indian jurist known as Imam al-Awza'i, the famous Persian scholar known as Abu Hanifa, the Persian jurist known as Ata bin Abdullah al-Khurasani, and the Indian poet known as Abu Ata Afla al-Sindhi, who wrote eloquent Arabic poetry. Poetry flourished during the Umayyad period, which produced poets such as Al-Farazdaq, who is known as one of the greatest Arab poets of all time, Yunus al-Khatib, who wrote multiple books on music and poetry, and Qais ibn Mulawwa, who wrote the famous romantic story entitled Layla Majnoon, which gained worldwide fame. Although many poets during the Umayyad period were busy praising caliphs, the Umayyad era also produced many Islamic and authentic poets who called for social justice and simplicity, despite the influx of immense wealth in the Muslim Empire. An example of such poetry during the Umayyad period is the following poem by Maysoon bint Bahdal. A tent with rustling breezes cool delights me more than palaces high. I prefer the cloak of simple wool than robes in which I learn to sigh. The crust I ate beside my tent meant more than this fine bread to me. The wind's voice where the hill's path went was more than tambourine can be. In terms of social justice, the greatest period of the Umayyad Empire was during the reign of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who made a variety of radical reforms after coming to power. Upon coming to power, Umar abolished the financial privileges that were previously given to government officials from the ruling Umayyad tribe. He was extremely humble and he placed a ban on poets entering his court as he did not want to be praised or flattered. In contrast, he surrounded himself with wise advisors and scholars such as Hassan al-Basri and Zayd ibn Ali. Umar used to spend only 2 dirhams for his daily meals and he wore simple clothing. He abandoned the extravagance that prevailed before him and began to address the inequality within the empire. He sold all of his expensive clothing, jewels, and ornaments and put all of the money gained from these items into the state treasury. He also returned all private land that was confiscated by previous Umayyad rulers. His rule witnessed complete stability and security, and he made peace with rebellious groups such as the Khawarij and Shias. Omar bin Abd Aziz replaced corrupt governors and appointed new competent governors. He also increased the salaries of all governors and banned them from participating in private business and trade, in order to reduce corruption and force them to fully focus on their duties as governors. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz also utilized talent from across the Muslim world, and he hired people purely based on merit instead of tribe, family, or lineage. Umar appointed many non-Arab figures in high-ranking government positions. For example, the North African known as Sabiq al-Barbari was appointed as a judge. Umar promoted public morality and ethics and condemned corruption. On one occasion, he exiled the poet known as Umar bin Abi Rabia after he wrote an indecent poem promoting sexual promiscuity. Umar bin Abdul Aziz also supported scholars and writers such as Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, who was commissioned to collect sayings of the Prophet. Because of his reforms, Umar bin Abdul Aziz was eventually assassinated by poisoning at the orders of one of his relatives. After the death of Umar bin Abdul Aziz, all of his reforms were reversed and the Umayyad Empire began to decline. Corruption and inequality increased. and the new Umayyad rulers began to discriminate against all non-Arabs. Non-Arabs such as Persians, Indians, Turks and Berbers were treated as second-class citizens. The famous Islamic scholar known as Imam Zayd ibn Ali, who rebelled against the Umayyads, was also a victim of racism during the late Umayyad period, as he was denied his inheritance from the Umayyads due to his mother being an Indian slave. Another example of racism in the late Umayyad period was when the Persian poet Ismail ibn Yasir al-Nisai was exiled to Hijaz by the Caliph Hisham ibn Abdul Malik, when he recited a poem for Hisham in which he glorified his Persian ancestors without praising the Caliph. Ismail ibn Yasir al-Nisai wrote many poems addressing the racism and the arrogance of the Arab rulers. For example, he wrote the following poem: "Do not be proud and do not oppress us. If only you were aware of our past and your past. While we raised our daughters, you buried your daughters alive." Because of Umayyad corruption and discrimination, many rebellions began erupting across the empire. In the year 739, the Berbers of North Africa rebelled against the Umayyads. The Berber revolt was so huge that it expelled the Umayyads from much of northwestern Africa. Later on, an even larger rebellion began in the region of Khurasan in Persia, where various anti-Umayyad leaders allied themselves with the Abbasids, who would eventually lead a revolution that overthrew the Umayyad dynasty.